Welcome everyone to Why Soul Works. I'm Kendall Bird, VP of Brand here at Soul Naturals. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedules today to join us tonight. We are grateful for your time, and we hope that our show is valuable to you. And I think tonight it should be. We have got a great topic and such great information. Now, Yerba Mate, we love it here at Soul Naturals, and we include it in 3 of our products: Cinemate, its namesake, Sulfit GP, and we've just added an additional amount to our Soul Complete. And so we really find it to be a great plant, and we want it to be in these things in our products. Now, when you think about Yerba Mate, the first thing you think about is energy, because it is so great at helping the body develop and manage energy. But it is so much more than that. It is chock full of nutrition, and all of this in this little leaf that is ground up and steeped in water in a lot of places in the world and drank that way. We feel like it's a very important part of our nutritional balance package because of its nutrition. And so let's talk about that now on Why Soul Works. Tonight we have Greg Halliday with us here, and he's going to talk to us about nutrition and how important nutrition is for our lives and our health, and the part that Yerba Mate plays in that here at Soul Naturals.
Well, I think, Kendall, no matter what your question is, nutrition is the answer when it comes to health.
Yeah.
And I know that's a pretty bold statement, but I think it's true. And I think after we go through tonight's training, I think we might even be a little more convinced that nutrition is the answer. I'm actually excited to be here with Kendall, and what I'm going to share are highlights from 2 outstanding presentations from 2 doctors. This is a little overview. We're calling tonight's class Nutritional Balance with Yerba Mate. Notice the 2 names underneath. The first half of the presentation are highlights taken from Dr. Janet Vergara, who is an MD and also an herbalist. And the second half, which dials in specifically on Yerba Mate, is taken from one of my favorite trainings given years ago by the incomparable Allison Caldwell Andrews, who is a clinical psychologist and also an herbalist. So, Kendall, I'm really excited to share this information because several of these highlights changed my view, and this is after 30 some odd years in the industry. They changed my view forever. They made me shift from what I had, and hopefully I'll remember those parts and I'll share that as we get there. I think it might change a little bit of your worldview. This information is information everyone should have. I wish that everyone could open up the cabinet in their kitchen and have this information so that when they're making their decisions about nutrition, this information is part of the process to make their decision, because it will make that much difference in their life. So with that, having said that, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump into some slides, Mr. Bird. And this is the package Kendall referenced, the Nutritional Balance Package, which has Soul Complete and Cinemate and Soul Vital. And so the first half of our presentation was training given by Janet Vergara, specifically, I think, backing the need for a package such as this and showing why a package such as this is essential in our day. In fact, maybe more so than any day in the history of the world, any sort of period of time. And I'll give reasons for that. She gives those reasons, and I'll pass them on to you. But before we get into her presentation, we're kind of thinking, since we're focusing on this package, and it's a great core package that can be added, especially if you use it through Soul's subscription. I think the package is normally a little over $170, and you're going to be paying $130 if you do it on subscription. So you save a ton, And more importantly than the savings, yes, even more important than the savings is the consistency of nutrition, which we're going to show today, can make all the difference. So Kendall, what are you thinking? We're kind of thinking we want to give this package away tonight on the show. The whole package. Somebody wins the whole thing. We're not going to split it up. Someone gets all that. So I think it needs to be through the chat. So what are you thinking?
So I think if you chat in what Soul product you consumed last and when you did that, if it was yesterday, today, this morning, 10 minutes ago, let us know.
What now? If you're sipping on it right now?
Right now.
Okay.
Let us know what it is, and we'll put your name in a bowl, and one lucky winner will win the whole nutritional balance package tonight.
Okay, they're already put. Okay, but you got to tell us when. Valerie put Verdesigns, but when, Valerie?
Yep. When
did you use it? Now, Lydia said, I just had Vital. Eric Patterson said Soul Clear SI. Okay, but you got to say when. So you got to say Soul Clear SI 10 minutes ago, 3 hours ago. Okay. Okay. Carly, Vital at the end of my shift. Okay.
Right.
Now, Jaliva, I like the way your mind works, Jaliva. 4:50 p.m. Soul Vital. Boom. Okay, just like Maria Valderas just had my Renew. Nice. Okay, you're an afternoon Renew drinker. I like that, Maria. I've done that too sometimes. Usually it's at night, but I actually do like it sometimes in the afternoon. Okay, Becky Boyle, Cinnamon with the new vanilla creme 30 minutes ago. Excellent, Becky. Great detail. Anita, Renew right now. Okay, Valerie, there you go. Valerie with dinner 1 hour ago. Okay, much better.
You're in the drawing now.
I'll say Eric, Soul Clear SI 2 houses ago. 2 hours ago. Oh, I think he's trying to say hours.
Maybe.
We're going to cut Eric some slack. He's got family coming in town this week. He's got a lot going on, so we're going to interpret that as hours. And okay, this is awesome. All right. I'm gonna lay off that because we got a lot to talk about tonight.
We do.
Kendall will keep an eye. We'll keep an eye. We're going to give this away. This is going to be a fun drawing. Okay, let's jump into the training. I love receiving information and then immediately passing it on. This first half of tonight, I got to witness this and soak it all in 1 week ago. This was given. I got to hear Dr. Vergara give this live. She is she's Spanish speaking, but she speaks English as well. Her presentation was in Spanish. But she organized this and presented so wonderfully well. It was, I think, a life changer for all of us listening, even though we're familiar with this area of thought and nutritional balance. So let's jump into what she taught us. She called her presentation Nutritional Balance. So this is from Janet Vergara. Shout out to Janet. Thank you. I did ask her permission to come and translate her slides into English and share them with you tonight. She said, oh, of course, Greg. So here we go. She taught us the importance of supplementation for true health. In fact, her point was you cannot get adequate nutrition in today's world if you don't supplement. That was the teaching, and then she proved it with what she taught us. And here's how she started. She said, okay, I'll tell you why. Because you have a second brain. Everybody's going, okay, yeah. And by the way, that second brain, it's your gut, has more neurons than your spinal cord. Why do I mention this? Said Dr. Vergara. Well, because the quality of nutrition that you bring into your body makes a huge difference in both your brain and the health of your gut. And these are proven results. If you can improve your nutrition, improved mental agility will follow. More clarity and focus will follow. Improved mood will follow. A greater capacity to learn will result. Better decision making happens with better nutrition. Stronger concentration happens with better nutrition. I love that she went there at the very start. We were all listening. And here's what she taught us. This has become one of my favorite graphics. True health, vibrant health, health the way we were meant to have health, requires movement. There is no health without movement. And think about all the things that move in our body, said Dr. Vergara. Our lungs have to move in and out and bring in oxygen, and the blood has to move to transport the oxygen to the cells, not to mention food and other things. Our heart has to beat, and blood has to constantly move to both nourish and also carry away the after effects and the side effect. The lymph has to move in our body. Our muscles need to move to have any kind of a strength. Our bones need resistance to be strong. Neurons, electrical messages have to travel. Movement is the definition of health, is movement. Where there is no movement, there actually is no health or life. So movement is what we need. There are layers to ponder just in that first point. Well, we can't have movement, teaches or taught Dr. Vergata, without energy. All movement requires energy. All of the movement that I went through, that she taught us, needs energy to carry it out. There is no energy. We don't have energy. We don't have sufficient energy unless there is metabolism. There needs to be a way to convert raw materials into energy. Our body's amazing and it can do this in so many ways. So metabolism is at the core of everything. And there is no metabolism if there is not nutrition. So nutrition, it should be the center of our thoughts. How we nourish and how good the quality of our nutrition is should be at the center of our focus really throughout life, because we have to eat constantly. And it provides health in the way described here in this graphic. So I love this graphic. If you're the kind of person that likes to share these little sort of deep and yet surprisingly simple tidbits of health, take a screenshot of this one. This can be a 2-minute presentation where I can tell somebody, here's what I do. What's that soul thing? What's that Solle thing? A lot of people say that. Well, here's something. I'll just show you what it is. We're about this. This is what we're about. And we don't just need good quality nutrition. We actually need balanced nutrition. We need to cover all the bases. So love this chart. Teaches me so much. In fact, I still feel like there's more pondering I've got to do on this chart. So says Dr. Vergata, feeding yourself is not the same as nourishing yourself. I can feed myself, but am I nourishing myself? Are we truly nourishing our body's cells? Each of the cells need to receive what is necessary to do their job, and their jobs are different. We live in an age of abundance of food, said Dr. Vergata. Does it contain enough nutrients? That's the question. Now, there are places in the world where there is great lack of food, but so much of the world's, a much greater percentage of the world's population lives among an abundance of food. But there are problems with our diet, with this food. There's an abundance of food in the modern diet and a scarcity of nutrients. That's the problem. The modern diet is also a trap. Abundance of food, a scarcity of nutrients. And not to mention, we've got amazing technology and amazing advancement, but there is a lot more contamination. There are a lot of pollutants. Now, in some ways, things are cleaner, for sure, in the nutritional area, but there are a lot of things that have made it more complicated. Dr. Vergata points out the proliferation of synthetics from the 1930s on. Heavy metals, chemicals everywhere, oxidative stress. There are lots of things that bring that about because of advancement in society. That's another part of our world, and it affects our nutrition greatly. Agriculture, Dr. Vergata points this out. We deal with the distance between production and consumption. That is not to the benefit of the nutrients, of the nutrient content. We deal with harvesting before maturity in order to meet demands. We deal with, and I found this third point super interesting, intensive agriculture versus biological agriculture. Agriculture is pointed, she meant several things by this, but one thing that hit home to me, agriculture is pointed towards yield, quantity of yield, more than the inclusion of proper nutrients and the exclusion of problems. New things that might be absorbed into the plants that shouldn't be there, that are actually hard and harmful to the body. So interesting, intensive agriculture is more our modus operandi, versus biological agriculture. The modern kitchen, says Dr. Vergara, high consumption of sugars, lots of refined flours, lots of consumption of processed foods. She talked a little bit about cereals versus more ancient grains. She talked about all the negatives. There are lots of negatives in processing for sure. The way things are stored, preservatives that are used, GMOs, to name three things that end up infiltrating a lot of the ready-to-eat foods, which are so frequently consumed, right, in the modern kitchen. Further, said Dr. Vergara, too much stress is another part of our world, and it affects nutrition. What it does is it depletes much more rapidly. I was going to say more rapidly, much more rapidly than in normal levels of stress. Notice it's too much stress. Some stress is good and healthy. Too much is the problem. We get a weak immune system. We get a lot of acid in the body and tissues. She points out intestinal dysbiosis, which is messing with our microbiome, which is sort of annihilating probiotics and some of the variety of strains that provide balance, that manufacture vitamins that inhibit pathogens. And we don't get that because of this intestinal dysbiosis from too much stress. Inflammation from too much stress. We don't absorb nutrients as well with too much stress, even though we might be bringing good nutrients to the table. So, Dr. Vergara says, what nutrients do our cells need? We know we have challenges in our world. Let's just review quickly. And she did this in such a simple, straightforward way. She listed out the kind of nutrition that we basically need to be aware of, all of us. It's really simple. She says there's the macronutrients, things we need a lot of, fats, proteins, carbohydrates. We need all of them. We can't get caught up in avoid this and have that. We need all of them, but we do need healthy sources of them. Micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, we need traces of them, but we do need them. Said Dr. Vergara, why vitamins? Why supplements and vitamins? Well, they strengthen our immune system. They give us strong bones, teeth, tendons, muscles. They promote growth and development. They promote production of red blood cells, collagen. She's just listing off highlights. The formation and the regeneration of organs. They enhance our microbiota, our microbiome, and a healthy microbiome produces vitamins as well. So vitamins ensure that vitamins exist in enough quantity in the body. They also protect cells, and they do many, many other things, but these are just a few she mentioned. Common vitamins that we're all familiar with. In the blue, I think Kendall's kind of doctored that up to look a little bit like a glass of water. It's blue, it's the shape of a glass, and the water's moving, I guess. Your B vitamins, we recognize all those, right? And vitamin C, those are digestible and absorbable in water. But in the yellow cloud of fat, vitamin A, D, and E, and K, we don't bring those into the cells if we don't have fats with them. They're fat soluble. So vitamins are tricky. They need to come in the proper form, and they need to come into our bodies together with balanced nutrition. So Dr. Vergara goes on. Yes, there are studies showing we're not getting enough of them. In case anyone's thinking, well, yeah, but I eat really healthy. Yeah, you could, and you're not getting enough of these vitamins. This is one study where almost everybody is deficient. I can't remember which vitamin it is. You can look at the study, the references there. But at least one of the key vitamins, nobody had enough of it, essentially 90% of the population. And 70%, a number of vitamins, not nearly enough in the system to enjoy health, real health. So what we sometimes accept as health is different than what we could have. Then Dr. Vergara went into what she calls trace elements. I love the word, we left the picture in there, oligoelementos in Spanish. Say that 3 times fast. Oligoelementos, oligoelementos, oligoelementos. Just a cool word. And it means minerals or elements, which they are elemental, that we need only in trace amounts, but we need them. They can't be absent, and there needs to be enough. So why are they so important? Well, because without them, the production of proteins doesn't happen. Body cannot heal or manage allergies. We have, in other words, with lower trace elements, says Dr. Vergata, we have more allergy problems. Does that sound familiar with all the food allergies and other allergic conditions now? And then when you look at the reality of how scarce nutrition is in this abundance of food, it's not a surprise. Says Dr. Vergata, degenerative conditions come with little lower amounts of trace elements. Mood regulation is harder, more cardiovascular illness, more inflammation. All of this when there's a scarcity of trace elements. Bone health, brain health, heart health, it doesn't get more core than that. It doesn't happen as it should happen when we have a scarcity of minerals or trace elements. So really, really insightful. Sometimes we think that trace amounts of something are maybe less important, and they're absolutely vital. She gave one example. She said magnesium, one of her favorites to talk about. All right, you should get more. Pretty much the answer is yes, you need more magnesium. Whatever you think you're getting of it, you need more. Because this is what she says. Do you want healthy blood sugar levels? More magnesium. Do you want healthy blood pressure? Do you want to avoid osteoporosis? Do you want to sleep well? Do you want to stay away from constipation and be regular? Do you want to avoid depression and anxiety? Do you want more energy? Magnesium, magnesium, magnesium is the answer to all these questions. Now, it's not the only thing involved, but it is not in sufficient levels found in the abundance of food that we're used to right now. There's a Pure study that she quoted. Pure is an acronym, and you can Google it. It's somewhat controversial and yet a vast, sort of an epic study. 18 countries, 7-year period, over 100,000 people, 135,000 people. And really what they tried to measure in this study is the role nutrition plays in serious health problems. Now, if you've been involved in this industry for so many years, so many decades as we have, none of that is a surprise. There wasn't anything found in this study that made us go, wow. But it was incredibly validating. And part of what that study did is it made people challenge the issue of what proportion should I have of certain macronutrients like proteins, carbs, and fats. And some of the findings were quite insightful. For instance, one of them is that we need more fat, not less. That people that had more fat, now it needs to be healthy fat. The people that had more fat in their diet had a parallel lower rate of serious chronic disease and degenerative health. That's just one little aspect. Now, there's a lot that you can look into the study. It's so big, a lot of conclusions can be drawn. We're not so impressed with the conclusions they draw. And Dr. Vergata didn't present necessarily their conclusions as much as the topic being crucial, the conversation being had, and the importance of balanced nutrition and the right nutrition. Yes, it has a direct effect on what kind of health we enjoy down the road. So then she ended by a quick little list of the 3 macronutrients. We talked about the micro things, the minerals and vitamins. Macros, carbs, they're important. They provide energy. They play a big role in digestive health. They help our intestinal movement. They help our microbiome. Fats also provide energy, and they let us absorb key vitamins like A, D, E, and K. They strengthen the immune system. They help bring inflammation down. They relax blood vessels, so that helps us have a lower blood pressure. They strengthen the structure of our body. Fats are a key component of cellular membranes, the brain, and they're body heat regulators. So we need lots of good fats, right? Fats do a lot. Proteins, also vital, as are the other 2. Our structure and movement, collagen, bones, muscle, skin, our brain function. Neurotransmitters and a lot of hormones are made of of proteins. They are protein structure. They play a role in enzymes and digestion, insulin. They help the body transport oxygen. We can't be without oxygen for more than a few minutes. So extremely vital proteins, and that we get enough of them. So ending the part from the highlights from Dr. Vergara, nutritional balance. This picture sums it up. You need to involve the capsules, and in the case of Solle, we use a lot of therapeutic drinks because we get the balance when we supplement. Without supplementing, we get abundance of food, but we do not get nutritional balance. Now that's the groundwork. I hope you enjoyed her information as much as I enjoyed learning from it last week. She put it so simply, and yet it contains profound teaching that I wish everyone could hear and everyone could ponder when they think about the way they nourish themselves, the way they eat, and that they supplement. Now we're going to move. Oh, I forgot my favorite. Dr. Vergara ended with this cool slide. This is another screenshot slide. She says, don't start a diet that will someday end. Begin a lifestyle that lasts forever. Balanced nutrition is a lifestyle. It's not me doing a certain specced out diet for a period of time that I'm actually going to get off then, and then what? Now that doesn't mean we don't at times want to do certain I think dietary emphases. That is great, but we also need to have the lifestyle plan that we're going to jump off to once we finish with sort of an intense particular diet that we're trying to re-regulate ourselves with. So, another great screenshot. Don't start a diet that will end someday. Begin a lifestyle that lasts forever. That's what we're about. Okay. Now, moving on, let's do part 2. Again, coming back to the Nutritional Balance Program, 2 of the 3 products that are in there, there's 4 because we have 2 flavors of Solle Complete, but of those, well, let's just say of those 4 receptacles, 2 bags and 2 boxes, Yerba Mate's in 3 of them. It's in 3 out of the 4. Why are we using so much Yerba Mate? Well, Kendall already gave us a hint towards why. Let's just use the Yerba Mate as our example today and deep dive into its component. It's just one key ingredient, but it is a key ingredient of the Nutritional Balance Program. And keep in mind those teachings that Dr. Vergara shared with us. So now we're going to jump into highlights from Dr. Allison Caldwell-Andrews from, in my opinion, her groundbreaking training she entitled Yerba Mate and Basic Plant Chemistry. I know it was a game changer for me. So a shout out to Dr. Allison Caldwell-Andrews, who is our Chief Scientific Advisor, and this is her training. She starts off with, okay, let's just take a look at plants and 2 basic divisions of plants. Says Dr. Caldwell-Andrews, there are the normalizers. Now think about adaptogens among the normalizers. They nourish and support growth and health, and they do it in a lot of ways. And then there are the effectors. So plants with a certain observable impact, an emphasis, an accent in terms of things they do for health. Now some whole plants that are normalizers have a lot of effector qualities in them as well. So there is some mix as well. But these are the 2 basic divisions. And in the plants, all life has these, says Dr. Allison, they have these metabolites. They're organic compounds that the plants make. The plants do it via chemical reactions. They use enzymes and they make these organic compounds. To what end? To help the plant grow and to help us grow. We got to eat the plants though, for us to get the benefit of these primary metabolites. What are they? Well, we already know what they are. We just heard them from Dr. Vergara. Carbohydrates, proteins, lipids or fats. And there's the genetic material of the plants as well. These are the primary metabolites of the plants. Now, the second group of let's call them ingredients or beneficial compounds of plants are the secondary metabolites. These vary, and they're unique across the entire plant kingdom. Over 100,000 of them are known to us, and they have various functions, both for the plants and for us. You can divide the secondary metabolites into 3 groups, says Dr. Allison. terpenes, phenolics, and alkaloids. Now, we don't have to become experts on those three groups. I'm certainly not. They're large groups and they do a lot of things that are beneficial to health. They do a lot of things that our body needs to receive in order to carry out all the functions that we learned about from Dr. Vergara. So these secondary metabolites are often sought for their medicinal use. Today we're talking about yerba mate, the deep dive on yerba mate. Well, why is it so interesting? Well, because yerba mate has an abundance of all three of those categories of secondary metabolites. It is a complex plant. It's an evergreen tree. Some people call it a shrub, but it can grow to be quite a large tree. And because it is a complex plant, it is much more complex than any medicine or pharmaceutical. So yerba mate creates a huge range of effects in health for people. A lot of times they'll refer to it as the liquid vegetable because, as Kendall mentioned earlier, most commonly it is steeped as a tea and people just drink it. There are different types of plants and some are more nutrition packed than others. Hence all the quality assurance work to make sure we get the nutrition. They do grow throughout South America wild, quite abundant in Paraguay, which happens to be the country that I lived in for 2 years many moons ago. This is how I'm used to seeing yerba mate. Again, maybe where it got its nickname, the liquid vegetable, because it's used as a tea and it was used many, probably millennia before Europeans started coming to the Western Hemisphere, to the Americas. It is a social practice. I can tell you a little aside here, Kendall, that when I was in Paraguay, if I had to summarize or estimate how many times I drank yerba mate in the 2 years there, I'll bet you I averaged 3 to 4 times a day. We did a lot of social visiting when I was down there, and they call that a guampa, that little receptacle that you saw on the slide, and then the metal straw is called a bombilla. And what they do is they have the herb in there, the mate sits in there in a dry powder. It's just the crushed leaf and stem from the tree. And then they just pour water in it, either hot, very hot, or very cold. When it was hot, which Paraguay was a hotter place, we drink it cold most of the time. Oh, but in Argentina and Chile and other countries, it's almost always drunk hot. And so you pass that around. You fill the water up, you drink all the water out of it. Someone who has a pitcher of water then replenishes the water, and we all use the same straw, that metal straw. Now, we don't drink the same water. That would be gross. But yeah, you drink the water and someone else fills it up and then the same straw. So, I didn't get sick. Yeah. Turns out, years later, when I became aware of mate in the industry, mate has a lot of antimicrobial properties, antiviral, antibacterial. And so interesting, yes, nobody wiped it off first. You just drank it and passed it around. And it was something that was very common. Now, I'm going to come back to how much I drank it, because we drank it all the time because people offered it. They called it remedio refrescante in Spanish, the refreshing remedy. Oh, wow. You want some refreshing remedy? Yes, I do. I want to be refreshed and I want to be healthy. Yeah. So, yes, the liquid vegetable, why is it so revered? Well, look what's in it. These are just a few things. Quercetin, theobromine, theophylline. Look at the minerals: manganese, potassium, zinc, calcium, iron, selenium, magnesium. Vitamins, several of the B vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin A, and much, much more. 15 amino acids and more. We're going to get there. For a second, let's concentrate on the ingredients. Kendall mentioned energy. So energy, yes, why does mate provide such? Well, because it has xanthines, that family of secondary metabolites Dr. Allison was teaching. They are used as stimulants because they dilate the lungs so more oxygen can enter. They make us more alert. They help the heart beat a little bit faster, and they stimulate the central nervous system. So, is that good? Well, there are 3 different kinds. There's caffeine, theobromine, and theophylline, and they all play different roles. They stimulate a healthy heart rate. They also stimulate digestion and the release of enzymes. and they relax smooth muscle. So like your intestine are smooth muscle, and when it's relaxed, things can travel. When it's bound up with stress, things get stuck. So yerba mate, it can do a lot of different things. Now, some of you might have heard, oh, it has caffeine. I'm not sure about caffeine. Well, that's what's so unique about yerba mate. It has a form of caffeine. So most people will just say, oh, it's caffeine. And we do often just talk about it as caffeine, but it is different in the mate. In fact, that is why this is Dr. Mowry, who's the director of Mountain West Institute of Herbal Sciences. He uses the term matine so that instead of caffeine, so that there's recognition of the differences of the caffeine found in yerba mate. Mate is already more balanced because it has all three of the alkaloids that provide energy. But the caffeine as well is not typical of other plants that are caffeinated. How is it different? Well, here's what Dr. Allison showed us. The matine caffeine in yerba mate, it stimulates the central nervous system, but it is not habituating or addicting. Now, I can tell you, I'm a witness of that because I drank it how many times a day for 2 years? And when I came home, there was no mate up here. And you know what? If it would have been addicting, habituating, I would have gone through a withdrawal. Zero withdrawal. And I've always found that fascinating because it gives such good energy. Why does it not act like, a lot of caffeine that you get in sodas and other things? Well, that's evidence of the difference in yerba mate. Now, also, caffeine causes problems with sleep, but not the matine. It actually can improve sleep. It also can improve muscle performance without the depressant after effect. In other words, without the fall. And a lot of people who are caffeine sensitive do not have that sensitivity to caffeine in yerba mate. We've seen that over the 10 years that Solle has had that. Yeah, 2 or 3 people have commented here, I'm caffeine sensitive, but I've had no issues with yerba mate. And Valerie's someone who is from the beginning. This is 13 years of cinnamate, and she's telling you that. So, theobromine, now that's another one. I mentioned 3 of them. This is the one that's more about stamina. It's longer lasting and a smoother stimulation. It is a vasodilator, so what that does is it relaxes smooth muscle and helps the body lower blood pressure when it's too high. So again, the opposite of what a lot of caffeine can do. Here you have yerba mate doing the opposite. Here's another great, camera screenshot slide. Look at all the beneficial compounds in yerba mate. I mean, the title is it outperforms green tea because green tea is actually really wonderfully nutritious, but yerba mate is much more, 25% more. It's almost 200 beneficial chemical compounds found in yerba mate. And in a study quoted by Bixby in 2005, it's more effective than either green tea or red wines at adding polyphenols, another one of the beneficial families of nutrients into the blood to do all the good they do and protect us in health and defend and other things. In fact, here's a little bit of a calibration, just how much more yerba mate has of these wonderfully protective polyphenols. They're looking at quercetin in particular. You've probably heard of quercetin. Look at yerba mate. We're talking about 3 times as much as green tea or black tea of this particular component, which is beneficial to health. It is immensely nutritious and really significantly diverse in its nutrition. So, over time, synthetic caffeine or caffeine from other certain plants, they can impair memory, they can impair sleep, they can cause anxiety. These are known facts. Yet yerba mate enhances memory, does not cause anxiety, and can improve sleep. What a wonderful, unique source of these needed components of energy, as we'll see at the very end. Now, yerba mate, I think I mentioned, it's wonderful for our immunity. And again, that explains why I could drink from those metal straws. And, the same ones that, I don't know how many hundreds of people that drank out of the same one that when I was in Paraguay. Because look at all these things that are in it. I won't go through this slide in detail. You can take a picture. But they make a difference. Mate has a lot of flavonoids fighting allergens, viruses, even carcinogens and things that cause abnormal cells. So here's a couple of other studies Dr. Allison throws in to show us, and it's not just the experience with it, it's heavily studied. Mate, in fact, GLP-1 is another area where you see loads of studies, and I just throw that out there because everyone's talking about it right now. There are lots of studies about it with yerba mate, and yerba mate would be in your top 3, in my opinion, of anything known about that topic. So look at the blood sugar effects. So this is a study that was done with mice, but they showed beneficial effects against insulin resistance in this study with yerba mate. Here's a study with people, and they're looking at cholesterol and that nutritional balance that results in healthier blood fats versus unhealthier. And what they had is one group with just mate, one with a diet, and one with mate and diet changes. And what they found is the people who drank mate, tea, independent of whether they changed their diet, still showed improvement. Now, it's better to do both, but they showed the improvement even when people had problems with their blood sugars, like the second citation shows on this slide. When people had type 2 diabetes, they found that their blood lipids improved, the cholesterol improved. They also showed in 2 other studies here, this is Journal of Food Sciences and another one, where body is protected from cholesterol oxidation by yerba mate, that inflammation is brought down, that abnormal cells, it is anti-mutagenic, and that in general, the bad fats in the body go down when yerba mate is in the diet. A few other random studies that it actually helps protect the liver, that yes, mate helps stimulate alertness and all sorts of cognitive measures. Think back to Dr. Vergara's comment on getting good nutrition, changing how we think and see things and concentrate. Also, our kidneys. Yerba mate is a diuretic, so yes, some people might say, well, I'm drinking cinnamate and I just seem to pee more. Yeah, that's good. You do, and you should, and it's good. So lots of great studies validating what those who take advantage of yerba mate know. So I'm going to come back and end tonight with this slide that Dr. Vergara gave us. Movement is absolutely essential to have any kind of health. Health depends on movement. Movement depends on energy. Energy depends on our metabolism, and the metabolism can't work with poor building blocks. Nutrition affects the type of metabolism we have, and therefore how much energy we have, how well everything's able to move in our body, and whether we enjoy vibrant health. You look at yerba mate in our deep dive today, it actually has roles to play in every one of these areas. It's very broad in nutrients, almost 200 beneficial compounds. It directly affects how our body creates energy. It inspires and stimulates more movement in multiple areas, and is a great benefit to health and nutrition. So, yes, it's just one of the many ingredients in the balanced nutrition package, but yerba mate is a king. It's a queen ingredient in 3 of these 4 formulas. Well, I guess just three products. Well, there we go. That was a deep dive. Took a little time, but I hope that information is useful to you and is something that you can share with others.
Yeah, very good information there. A lot of good stuff. So Allison, actually, that presentation that was an excerpt from, had several more slides, and she kind of went into this idea of, how drugs are extracted from plants or used to be almost exclusively, but now there's synthetics and whatever, and how that how a complex plant like cinnamate can be
like
so
yerba mate.
Yerba mate.
Yeah.
Can be so much more because we don't even understand all the reasons why a component works. And so if you have all these things together, and yerba mate is so diverse and rich in all of that, so it's such a great plant.
I agree. And Eric writes a comment. His grandpa drank yerba mate 3 to 4 times a day till he died at 96 years of age. You can do a lot worse than just drinking yerba mate every day. Yeah. And thankfully, the way we do it at Solle, it's an extract. So instead of just steeping it through a tea and pulling off what you can off the leaves and stem, you get to dissolve this wonderful extract in a much more concentrate and drink it all, and you get a lot more of the nutrient in a lot less of the powder than if you had to just sit and drink a lot of the tea.
And it's delicious.
And it tastes better, too.
Yeah. I don't know how you can drink that with just plain. It tastes like straw or something, right?
Yeah. Well, it kind of tastes a little bit like, I used to think it tastes like hay. It's not it's not overwhelming, but it's funny. You become accustomed to it, but it definitely tastes better in Cinnamate, I'll say. Yeah. Should we give away something, Kendall?
Let's do that.
All right. We've got lots of great comments here. We'll let Kendall do it since I did all the talking today. I'm going to stir this around. He can't look in the bowl, and I'm not going to look either. We got these papers folded over. Let's see who gets a balanced nutrition. I guess it's Nutritional Balance is technically the name of the package, isn't it?
Nutritional Balance.
The whole package. Who wins?
Oh, my heck.
Valerie Bledsoe.
Valerie
Look
Bledsoe.
at Valerie. Well, Valerie, you must be living right.
Yeah.
You won the balance. You know what? She will put it to good use. She will definitely put that to good use. So, Valerie, you won the package. We'll get that out to you with one of your many orders. And everybody, thanks so much. I'll turn it back to Kendall here.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's great to see you commenting and being part of this live. It means a lot to us, and I learned so much tonight. Thank you, Yanette and Allison, for your information and your knowledge and sharing that with us. And thank you, Greg. And thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time on Why Soul Works.